For more on the US presidential debate, we can bring in Marco Vicenzino, a geopolitical expert and global strategy advisor. Good morning, Marco. For you, what was the most notable thing about that debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump last night?
Listen, much of these debates are about optics. It's less about substance. So I think in terms of substance of the debate, we're very short on policy. The key thing is that in terms of perceptions, you have to look at it within the context of expectations. And since Biden exited the race, she has been largely scripted. And this was the most definitive evening of her political career until now. She had to perform. And I think for the most part, what she set out to achieve, she largely achieved. She was fairly calm. She was fairly cool. She was fairly collective. She was able to get under Trump's skin on several occasions, particularly when it regarded rallies, numbers at his rallies, and the results of the 2020, the outcome of the 2020 election. But I think she didn't answer many questions, which leaves also room for doubt. But overall speaking, she achieved what she needed to remain competitive in this race and to continue building momentum. As far as Trump is concerned, he allowed her to get under his skin. And he had many chances, many missed opportunities to attack her, and particularly on issues of the economy and inflation, on immigration. Since Biden exited the race, Trump has been struggling with his lines to articulate his lines of attack against Harris. And I think last night we saw quite a bit of that also. So if this is the only debate that takes place, the Harris team will be happy with that. Obviously, I think the Trump team will want a second debate. Whether he gets that or not remains to be seen. But I think overall, the key question is, how did it impact voters, centrist independent voters, in the 7 key swing states that will determine the outcome of the election? And I think in coming days, we'll get more reaction. In my opinion, a lot of those independent voters are looking for a real policy debate, which they did not get last night. What they got, in my opinion, was more hype and more personal attacks.
And as you said, there wasn't much debate. Kamala Harris did, however, say that her economic plan had the backing of 15 Nobel economics laureates and also Goldman Sachs. But is there any way that she would have sold this to the American people, and more specifically, the undecideds in those swing states?
The undecided in those swing states are largely people struggling, middle class, who are struggling to put food on the table. Whether the last thing I think that they can identify with is professors, Nobel laureates at Wharton or Goldman Sachs. What they're looking at is their daily existence at their table, what they're struggling with, those bills. And that's where the lines of attack, where Trump should have seized upon that. 3/4 of the way through the debate, he said to Harris, "You are Biden," and then at the end, he made a very strong point, saying is that you had 3.5 years to do what you're saying. Why didn't you do it? But those were just quick sound bites. He needed to elaborate on that, and I think those were part of the missed opportunities.
And Joe Biden's economic record has been praised in some quarters, but inflation has meant the American public, particularly the middle class, do not really see the benefits. And Kamala Harris, will this be a burden for her? And if there is a second debate, and in fact, the Harris campaign has already suggested, I don't know how seriously, that there might be another one, could Donald Trump actually take advantage of this?
He has to, once again, he has to articulate his lines of attack more effectively. It's been several weeks since late July. Last night was his opportunity to seize that and to do exactly that, was to take advantage of the disadvantages of the Biden-Harris team. Once again, you're looking at inflation, immigration, and those are 2 key issues, and also security in many American cities. But he alluded to it. He would make certain sound bites about it, but those independent centrist voters want to hear it in a more coherent fashion, and that's what he needs to do. He needs to articulate, be more coherent in his messaging, and he has less than 2 months left. And once again, he may not get that other debate. If he gets that other debate, that'll provide us a key opportunity. For the Harris team, if there is not a second debate, I think they did achieve largely what they were aiming to achieve. She came out with an advantage from this. Once again, this, in my opinion, was a debate that was short on policy, but it was more about optics, less substance, but she was able to come across in a more effective way than she had not had the opportunity, or she has not done since Biden exited the race.
And how is the debate likely to have been seen abroad? Now, clearly, foreign governments are not going to express a preference for either candidate, but privately, they do have their favorites.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you look at many of the Western European governments, as one example, there are each governments all around the world, obviously, but look in terms of the transatlantic, the strongest relationship that the United States has. In many Western European countries, many of the leaders would prefer Harris. If you go to parts of Eastern Europe, it's a mixed bag. If you go, for example, to Israel, the leaders of Israel, the leadership, the political leadership, clearly prefers Trump. So it's more on a country by country, region by region basis. It's not black and white.
Thank you very much for that, Marco Vicenzino, who's a
Thank you.
global business advisor.